All right, could I get a motion to start the meeting?
Motion to start the meeting.
Could I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of starting the meeting, please go to the reactions tab and hit the raise hand feature. If you're voting against or if you're abstaining, then you can email or you can privately message me. Can everyone vote, please, if you have not already? All right, so we've hit the halfway mark, so we're gonna begin. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do are executive board and SJ branch reports. So we're gonna start with Executive President Sam Mullen.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Happy Blue Jay Tuesday. I remember today. Obviously, we had a busy week last week. Instead of GBM, we had our Daniels event this year, which went very well, even though next time it will be longer. We also had our Board of Trustees presentation, which was a huge deal and went very well also. We've heard that a lot of trustees were very happy with how it went. And hopefully we'll be able to continue engaging with them for years to come, which we are also working on at the moment. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Sam. I guess I'm next. So I had a meeting with Carolyn last week, and then we met with Pat Conklin from the alumni office. She's gonna be working with us for the homecoming float parade idea that we're gonna do with like shoeboxes. I made a timeline for that, and we're gonna have a meeting with her probably next week to discuss further steps. Other than that, nothing to report. Next, we got Addie Perlman, our executive treasurer.
Hello. So tonight we're going to be presenting our new SAT guidelines. So that's exciting. We're switching to a semester system. So I'll explain that a little bit tonight alongside with Harvey and Karen. And then for just updates for right now, starting on March 12th, groups will be able to start requesting for the fall. And then also that will go until April 1st. So I'll be sending out an email about that. And tonight we'll just be doing a little vote on the guidelines. So thank y'all.
All right. I think Brianna is next, but I do not think she's here. So we're just going to move on to the LHAC committee open input period. So if you guys want to unmute, I think Stephen is first. So Stephen, you can go ahead and take the floor.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Stephen. I'm a freshman. I wanted to briefly talk to y'all today about sort of opportunities I think would be available for socialization. I don't think I need to put a ton of work into proving that, like, obviously COVID has made for freshmen meeting new people very difficult. I personally have kind of struggled with meeting new people, and I feel as though the current mixers that existed at the beginning of the year weren't quite sufficient to allow freshmen to meet new people. And I think the main problem with that was that there wasn't really a continued dialogue between different people. So without continued engagement, you just kind of drop off. Maybe you make a group chat, but never really gets touched again. So I had a few ideas. I really appreciated the pen pal idea that was somewhat put into motion. I signed up for that from the student government, but that was never really continued. So I would love to see another pen pal sort of thing to just kind of check further engagement, but also pen pal things in larger groups where you can meet a group of maybe like 4 or 5 people, and you can have a group chat where you're asked to like send a text once in a while. I also thought that as the temperature is warming up, today was wonderful. There could be more in-person, obviously very safe, but in-person activities. For example, the limit on COVID has been raised to 10. So I was thinking maybe like a group of like 5 people could do a scavenger hunt around campus. Freshmen don't know the campus as well. Most of us haven't been on campus yet. So maybe like a scavenger hunt where there is like a list of certain things. And if you find or take pictures of certain things on campus, you win like a $10 gift card. It's a good chance for people to meet in person, and it's a good chance for students to get to know the campus better. My final sort of proposition was that based sort of on like safety and liability and all of that, I think it would be pretty interesting for like older students like seniors to maybe host trips down to Inner Harbor or just around Baltimore. We had a community walk that someone showed the community, like maybe a walk over to Hamden, down to Inner Harbor, like I said, to sort of explore all of Baltimore, since I feel like a lot of students aren't really able to go all the way if they don't have a large group to travel with. But those are just my suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So I saw in the chat that HSS is hosting a scavenger hunt style event. So definitely check that out. But I'm sure our committees will take note of that, and we'll definitely get to work on that. I think next is Smita Mahesh. So Smita, you can go ahead and get started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm very excited to be here to share some input. So if you do not know, I'm a senior, and I feel that something that is a sentiment that is shared upon seniors is how COVID-19, whether it's a hybrid or online campus, has made it very difficult to connect with one another and also to celebrate as seniors. Continuing and considering the insight that was given to the recently graduated class who had their senior experience also cut short, I was thinking a lot about what has been done and what could be done for creating a more sincere and a meaningful senior experience. So some things I wanted to propose and ask for is, one, I feel that as a senior, that being emailed by Student Philanthropy asking seniors for donations is kind of pretty insensitive, considering that seniors are already struggling enough to even just find financial security for themselves in the current moment or even in their future. And it felt like it was a very tone deaf media campaign by Student Philanthropy that did not even consider the needs of our seniors or even of the previous graduating class. So I am hoping that there is some way that SGA can work with Student Philanthropy to alleviate this type of messaging, and also to hear if Student Philanthropy is doing any efforts for the behalf of their struggling graduating class and the previous graduating class who have been like very much affected by COVID-19. Another proposal I was wondering is that if would be possible to work with whether the Parents Fund or SGA and the senior class as well, of creating like kits that can be delivered to families. So there's a lot of students who are not on campus, and even though we are still waiting for word on whether our graduation and commencement ceremony is going to be online, like confirmed 100%, or to be in person, I think it should be worthwhile for our families and students to have maybe a banner or something to put on their lawns to celebrate their students graduated from Johns Hopkins, even if not everyone can attend the commencement ceremony, whether it's just students or just two people of a family or just being online. And I think that type of physical interaction of providing families and students with those type of memorable items is a way that we can do a social media campaign and also connect along with our students on a larger, like, global level. Lastly, the other thing I wanted to ask, it's more so of consciousness about mental health and also like our connection to our university from this point and for years forward. I noticed that Johns Hopkins University has in some aspects, humility when it comes to student achievement, but in another way, I feel that there's this humility is not giving enough to celebrate our seniors and just students who are achieving. When students achieve Dean's List, they are simply emailed a congratulations of Dean's List. But I noticed that students at other universities, they would be put onto a Dean's List of like a social media ad or even on a website. And I think parents, teachers, people from different communities are so excited to celebrate their alumni of a high school or the student athlete or the person that's involved in our university. And I think this is such a simple act that Johns Hopkins can do to celebrate the people who have achieved Dean's List, because it is quite an achievement at Hopkins, especially during a pandemic. And I think this is an initiative that can be done now and even after the pandemic. So thank you so much for hearing all this input.
Thank you, Smita. I'm sure that Will, he's the senior class president, would definitely love to chat with you. He sent in his email, and thank you guys so much for coming to public info period. We really value your input, and it really gives SJ a lot of things to kind of work off of. Yes, thank you. Also, Stephen, I think China is also wanting to reach out to you on a scavenger hunt app. So if you want, you can check that out as well. With that, we're going to move into class council reports. So we'll start with freshmen.
So, in terms of freshmen, something we talked about a lot this past meeting was that we are going to hold a bunch of events this weekend for March 13th, which is the anniversary of regular decision kids getting into Hopkins and the entirety of quarantine and everything. So we have a couple of events planned for that, and hopefully it'll be fun.
Thank you, Kobe. Next, we'll move on to sophomores.
Yeah, we met on Sunday to kind of talk about the Easter event that we have planned for next month. And I also attended the Board of Trustees meeting, which, as Sam said, turned out really good.
Thank you, Anthony. We'll move on to juniors. Nathan.
Nathan's not here. If another junior wants to step in, that would be appreciated.
We're basically still working on the math and having everyone order and like kind of follow up on orders just to make sure everyone is getting everything in the right like address. Once we get the Baltimore shipment, we're gonna be doing like a distribution thing, and then we're also working on some spring events.
Thank you, Suba. And then seniors.
Yep, so we announced our t-shirt design competition / giveaway a couple days ago, so we're excited about that. We're also finalized our dates for our collaborations with the Live Design Lab for our events. So that email is going to be sent out soon, and you can win AirPods through that as well. So that's exciting. And then we are planning programming, but I cannot get into the details of it, but we are actively working to make the most of our remaining year experience at SMETA. Just can't discuss details, but we are planning that. So.
All right, thank you, Will. We're going to go into committee reports now. So we're going to start with academic affairs, Senator Chen, then Senator Zhang.
Have a resolution that we're going to discuss in today's GBM regarding mid-semester feedback evaluations. And then we'll also meet with our Vice Deans of Education this Thursday. So if anyone has any concerns that they want to bring up, feel free to email our Gmail or reach out to one of us on the Academic Affairs Committee. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to go on to civic engagement. Senator Wang.
Hi, yeah, so we're continuing to work on a lot of the projects that we mentioned last week. This week we have a meeting scheduled with the person who runs the Baltimore Intercession, Be More Intercession program. So me and Kobe will be attending that. But otherwise, that's pretty much it for me.
All right, thank you. Next we have finance, Senator Ha.
Hi. We met Monday and last Wednesday, and we just finalized some of our SAC guidelines, which we're presenting today. And we started reviewing monthly grants, and that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Next we have health, safety, and sustainability, Senator Chen and Senator Tai.
Hello. Sorry. Okay. Let me get my cat out of conference video. Okay. So hi. This is JJ. So we just finalized the bill that we're going to present. Very sure. Sorry. And I will and we also follow up with the resolution that calls for contact tracing with some school admin to discuss the step going forward.
And we're also working on preparing for Sex Week by reaching out to Saru and Chu.
Thank you, Megan and JJ. All right, next we have internal affairs, President Cho.
Yeah, nothing to report on our end. We don't have any legislation to go over, but if you guys want to change stuff up.
Thank you, Will. All right, next we have student org, Senator Kalahasti.
Hey everyone. We didn't end up meeting last week just due to some internal reshuffling things, but we will be meeting this Thursday and working on student org guides as well as talking about the homecoming float that Mahek mentioned earlier.
All right, thank you, Ananya. Next we have student services, President Singleton.
Yeah, we met Sunday and today to kind of talk about ongoing projects as well as starting to plan an in-person event for our spring break day.
All right, thank you. Next we have caucus reports, and we're going to start with the Black Caucus, Senator Ananya.
We don't have anything to report.
All right, thank you. Next we have the Hispanic / Latinx Caucus, Executive Secretary Soldatelli. I still don't think Brianna's here, but if anyone else from the caucus would like to report, you guys can go ahead.
Yeah, so we were supposed to send an email out last week, but I was supposed to and I did not get around to it. So we're working on sending that out to all the student organizations this week so they can fill out a form and join the caucus.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the Women and Gender Minorities Caucus, Senator Rieger.
Not much to update since we didn't meet this week, but we are going to be helping with the research for the Greek Life Forum, hopefully. So we've been getting a team together for that and also transitioning over to Messenger to try to be more open to new members.
Awesome. Thank you, Elena. All right, and then we got our advisor report. So Carolyn.
Hey, y'all. So first reminder for the people who are having the continued conversation about the COVID contact tracing, please reply to my email and when to meet ASAP. And the second thing is later tonight, I'm going to send you all an email about Leadership Weekend. So Leadership Weekend is a program hosted through SLI in partnership with OMA, Life Design, JH Unions and Programming, and the CSC. And it's a 2-day experience at the beginning of April to help you develop your leadership experience and leadership capacity. We are super, super excited about the program, and we've extended the deadline for applications. It's due this Friday, so if you are interested, and as the folks who are some of our higher ranking student leaders on campus, it would be fantastic if you all are able to participate to do that. So you'll see that email tonight with the link to apply.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. With that, we're going to go into new business. So we were going to start with the SAC guidelines presentation, but we're going to start with the mid-semester eval right now. And then we're going to do SAC guidelines at the end. So Senator Chanda and Senator Butt, you guys can screen share if you want, or I can, whatever is your guys' preference.
Yeah, I can share my screen.
Okay.
No problem. Okay, is it visible?
Yeah.
Cool. So Raj and I and the rest of the Academic Affairs Committee have been working on course evaluations for the better part of this year, honestly. First thing that happened was way back in the fall semester when we received word that the registrar was no longer going to send out like qualitative data. So we've been having conversations with them and we started researching the issue a little bit deeper. And we came up with a couple ideas. This is the biggest plan or the culmination of our research that we want to present today. It's pretty much the creation of a mid-semester course evaluation. So kind of just going through each part of our resolution. We read through the Q2 report and just like some promotional material that Hopkins has sent out in the past. And it seems like Hopkins really emphasizes intellectual passion and like academic integrity and that sort of stuff. So we want to make sure that classes are really at the best that they can be quality-wise. The original course evaluation system that we've seen and used for the past couple of years was actually conceived in 2011 with the previous Vice Deans of Education, and they haven't been updated at all since, except for removing the qualitative data. So that's the only update that's been made, and it's hurt students. The process is supposed to include removal or updates of classes every single year, but it feels like students don't really get to see those changes happening. So we would like to see some more transparency as to where the effects of our course evaluations go. And then kind of going into the mid-semester course eval, we don't want this to replace end of semester evals because we think that that's also important, but just doing some research onto what other universities are doing, we thought that creating a mid-semester course eval within each department might actually be very beneficial for improving classes as the years go by. So first, there is quite a bit of research that supports mid-semester evals. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Vanderbilt, UNC, and a bunch of other schools have done research on it themselves, and some have even mandated mid-semester evals within their systems. some departments within our school also do it. So WSC does a mid-semester eval to an extent. The Cary Business School does the course eval, and then within individual classes, you might find that the professors will do a mid-semester eval just halfway through the semester to see how things are going. There are also a lot of templates that already exist. Academic Affairs made a template for the Deputy Registrar back in the fall, and the university's Center for Educational Resources also has a bunch of templates. If you want to, I'd recommend going through each of these links and checking out some of these resources. So yeah, we thought that some of the reasons that we wanted to introduce a mid-semester eval were first that we felt like learning strategies for students in each cohort that goes through the class has like different ways that they prefer to learn, or different needs or different accommodations. This has been incredibly important, especially through COVID, where a lot of students' needs have centered around like proper audio and visual equipment for professors. So we thought that a mid-semester eval would be a good way for students to be able to communicate that to their professors. Also, currently, if students have issues with the course, they kind of have to bring it up individually and directly to a professor who's usually creating the issue. So problems that they might have in class, potential conflicts of interest. So we thought that it would be better for a student to have first an organized system that they can go to, one that's anonymous if the issue is quite serious, and then it's less direct so that they don't have to go to the professor if the professor is the one who's like kind of contributing to the issue. End of course evals also have a drawback in that the time period in which they're done is significantly stressful for both students and professors. So students are going to be preparing for final exams, planning for the next semester, getting ready for break and relaxing. And because of that, sometimes we tend not to give our best efforts into course evaluations at the end of the semester. Same thing with TAs. Once course evaluations are done, after the semester is ended and students have moved on to another course, it's less likely that professors will be able to implement effective change because there's no dialogue, like students have already moved on. And then finally, we think that faculty would benefit from having an organized repository of information to check back through on over like the years, just so that they can see how improvements been made in their classes. Yeah, so those are each of our whereas clauses. For our resolution clauses, we first want to make it a priority that the registrar brings back qualitative data that they present in course evaluations. We think that this is important for choosing courses and for finding professors that students might like. We also want to create the mid-semester eval form on top of the end of semester form that already exists. We want it to be based or created based on student feedback rather than developed and communicated within departments or by a third party. We want it to have a balance of open response and numerical questions. We want it to be in collaboration with SGA and other student groups. And then we want it to be organized within each department, as we think that having each course and each professor have their own system would become too complicated, but having it within each school or within the entire university would be too large to solve a local issue. We want the new LMS steering committee, which one of their goals, I believe, is to come up with a new learning medium rather than Blackboard. So we want them to consider this as a feature when they're creating a new platform. We also want this to be considered in the new AFIS system, which is supposed to replace SIS or at least enhance SIS from what we know so far. We want each department to be able to collect ways that are appropriate for their field of study. So obviously, a department within the humanities is going to ask different questions or look for different feedback than one in the engineering department, and we want to give departments the flexibility to do that. We want it to be done in a median part of the semester, obviously. We thought that the best time to do this would probably be after the first exam has been completed or the first paper has been completed and graded, just so that students have gotten pretty much the full breadth of the course, and they know what they can do to improve moving forward, and so can the professor. And then the rest of this is kind of just going into the nitty gritty, so at least like giving a week and then giving opportunity after the evals are done so that further discussion can happen if it's necessary. And that's pretty much it. That's the course evaluation system that we've been thinking about. Raj, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you covered everything really well. And yeah, just again, the main talking points are that it's really important that we have this mid-semester feedback system as a whole, as opposed to not having any in general, and that we can't just say to ourselves that if there's concerns and issues, students will bring them up on their own to professors, because there's, again, the possibility that you wouldn't want to be confrontational with your professor. Not many people would have the time to email your professor in bulk, and it just makes more sense to have the system where people can bring up concerns in this actual feedback form.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. So we can open up the floor to any motions. You can have a motion to vote, motion to move into Q&A, motion to move into moderate caucus, anything.
Motion to vote.
Could I get a second?
Seconded.
Awesome. All right. All in favor of moving into voting procedure, please go to the participants tab and raise your hand. If you are voting against or if you are abstaining, then please privately message me. All right. Looks like we have moved into voting procedure. All in favor of passage of the resolution, please go to the reactions tab and hit the raise hand feature. If you are voting against or if you are abstaining, then please privately message me. All right, congratulations, Veda. Congratulations, Raj. The resolution has passed. I'm gonna pull out my gavel. Here we go.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Good job. All right. With that, we're gonna move into Addie. Are you still here? Okay, we're gonna go straight to the HSS Kahoot Night bill. And then we're going to hopefully go to the SAC guidelines after that. So Senator Talia, how do you say your last name? Shadrao? Shadro? Okay, yeah. If you want to just go over the bill, I can give you screen sharing option or permission, or I can screen share if you want me to.
Could you screen share?
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, I'm just muted. Okay, so this is the bill to fund the health safety. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is the bill to fund the health and safety Kahoot game night. Essentially, our purpose behind this is to kind of remind people about COVID guidelines, resources, and also like mental health resources. And kind of make this information just like repeated to the students, because we do get a lot of emails and it's difficult to keep track of everything. And then in order to like incentivize people coming, we are providing like all of those prizes that you guys can read through. Besides that, I think it's also kind of intended to like help build community here and just like encourage students to meet one another, which they could probably do through the game night and kind of collaborate with their friends. That's about it, but if anyone has any questions.
All right, so if anyone wants to motion to move into voting procedure or motion for a Q&A or moderate caucus.
I have a motion for an amendment.
Okay, you can say your amendment and then.
So amendment is on the doc. It's it is friendly. It basically removes a date restriction because we realized that we want more flexibility and pluralizes some things. so that we have the option of doing 2 events instead of 1.
All right. Well, Talia, if you could go to the doc and just, I can change that here too. So you just want to say, like, you can just change it yourself because then that'll be.
Do they need to vote on it before I change it, or is it fine?
No.
So you need to agree that it's a friendly amendment, and then no vote.
Okay. It is a friendly amendment.
All right. So we don't need to vote. So you can just go ahead and change it. And then.
Oh wait, hold on. I lost the thing.
I think it was like the event dates will be TBD by the HSS committee. What's kind of digits? Is that fine? And then like delete the other part.
I think so. Ben, if that's right, then yeah, that's fine.
Yep, that's it.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Does anyone have any other motions?
Motion to move into voting procedure.
Seconded. All right. All in favor of moving into voting procedure, please go to the reactions tab and hit the raise hand feature. If you're abstaining or if you're voting against, then you can privately message me. All right. Looks like we have majority, so we are now in voting procedure. All in favor of passage of the HSS Kahoot bill, please go to the reactions tab and hit the raise hand feature. If you're voting against or abstaining, then please privately message me. All right, looks like we have majority. Congratulations, Talia. Your bill is passed. Good job. All right, so we are now going to move on to the SAC funding bill or the SAC guidelines. So Addie is currently unavailable. I think her building had a fire alarm. So would Karen want to present it?
Sure. Oh, sorry, my messages are going off. Would you be able to share your screen, Mahak?
Yeah, of course. Do you want me to start with the previous guidelines or the new guidelines?
The new ones, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Okay, so this year we've decided to update our budget system to the semesterly budget allocation system. Originally it was a yearly, so what groups would have to do would be in the spring they would request for funding for the next academic year. So instead we've decided throughout I guess this process this year that semester allocation budget worked better because groups typically don't know what they're going to use for the whole year. So it's better for them in terms of planning to just have to plan one semester at a time versus 1 year at a time. So how this is going to work is very similar to how it worked this semester. So right now, or I guess I'll use this spring as an example. So for this spring, we had groups apply for the semester for spring semester budget over intersession. So then after, or I guess, sorry, at the end of last semester, and then we reviewed them over intersession, and then they got their budgets the second week into our spring semester. So then for the fall semester, what we're planning on doing is the budgets will go out to groups by March 12th, as Addie said, and they'll return it to us by around April. First week of April. So then we will review them and then we'll get them back to groups before summer so that they have their allocation by next semester. And this will be helpful because the way it was done previously, annual allocations would have to be done like during the summer semester, and it would be really hard for like all the members of SAC and finance to meet at the same time. So how groups apply for the semester budget allocation is the same. They just go onto campus groups and then they would submit a budget allocation form. Attached to it would be like the Excel spreadsheet with the budget justification and all that information, and then SAC and finance would just review that. I'm going to hand it over to Harvey to discuss monthly grants, and then I will explain the caps.
Excellent. Okie doke. So things are working out now. Hey, everybody. So yeah, by and large, the primary change was the semester change, which Karen already discussed. Other than that, the new guidelines, I rewrote the whole thing. It's largely the same, but a lot of redundancies and loopholes have been closed. I fixed all the language, tightened everything up, and it should be a much more efficient and clear-cut document for next year. Beyond just language and the primary semester change, groups are still able to be funded through monthly grants, which are kind of treated like emergency grants, even though it doesn't necessarily have to be an emergency. Basically, the idea behind a monthly grant is that you can apply once per month for a new allocation within reason should unexpected costs be incurred by the group or some new event come up. So this is kind of basically seen as an addendum almost to your prior allocation, in that we consider how we have funded you already, but we're certainly amenable to new circumstances. I mean, outside of that, it's largely the same policies for monthly grants prior, which we already did. And those were all really efficacious. So no large problems there. Karen, if you want to run through the other part of the document, I will pass it back off to you.
Cool. Thanks, Harvey. Mahek, would you be able to scroll down to the semester budget caps or annual budget caps? Thank you. Although we're doing a semester budget system, we're still going to keep the annual caps just because some groups might do their events mostly in the fall or mostly in the spring, and we wanted to offer that flexibility of either requesting more in the fall if you do more events in the fall and more in the spring, vice versa. So the first cap that we changed was the independent contractor cap. So originally in the old guidelines, it was independent contractor and professional services that were non-JHU, but they were kind of redundant and groups didn't really know like what the difference between those two were. So we decided to combine them into one combined cap of 4,500, so it would be easier for groups during the process. And then the next cap would be the JHU professional services caps, which is used for like university provided services such as security and audiovisual stuff, which is usually used by groups for concerts and large events. And we kept that the same at 2,000. And then the next cap would be, the next thing we changed would be, we split the non-reusable items cap into two categories, one being non-reusable non-prizes, and then the other being non-reusable prizes. So non-reusable non-prizes is at $1,000. We upped it from 500 because during our allocation process, we realized that groups had an increased need for film rights, games, decorations, and stuff. And then for non-reusable prizes, we didn't have this previously. This was more of a thing that what happened this year because due to COVID, and we wanted groups to like be able to like still request stuff and still host events. It would get more participation. So we added that this year, and we decided we would keep it, but just lower it to $500 for the whole year instead of $500 per semester that we originally had. And then the next cap would be the reusable items cap, which is $1,500. And that has stayed the same because we have seen good use of the cap this semester and last semester, with groups requesting things such as costumes, storage spaces, and equipment for whatever they need for their group. And then the next cap would be food, which would be $1,000. Although groups were unable to purchase food this year because of school policy and COVID related things, we hope to be able to fund food in the next semester and going forward because that's something that groups like to have for their events. The next cap is registration fees, which is at $1,500. This semester and last semester, we saw a lot of online conferences and competitions instead of in-person ones because we couldn't really do in-person ones. So we hope to be able to fund both in-person and online next semester, which is why we kept it the same. And travel is $1,500. We didn't fund travel this semester because of COVID, but typically groups in the past have requested travel, so we decided to keep the cap the same. And lastly, we combined our printing and advertising cap to $3,200. Originally, it was 4 subcaps for printing and advertising, and we decided to just have like a big summation number. So now it's 3,200 for everything. And then a sub breakdown of that would be 100 for physical advertising, such as like flyers, posters, etc. And then 100 of it being social media advertising. And then 3,000 would be just for journals, print, newsletters, publications that a lot of journal groups like to have. So that sums it up for the caps that we have changed and the caps that we have kept for the semester and the reasoning behind them. Thanks.
Addie, do you want to go throw anything in?
Yeah, sorry, y'all. There was a fire alarm. So thank you, Harvey and Karen. At the bottom below is pricing information that is all for like Hopkins amenities and things that groups might need for events on campus. And then at the bottom of that, we have policy changes, SAC discretion and conditional funding, and SAC transparency. And so these are pretty much the same as from the ones that we did earlier this year, but that there will be an email from the executive treasurer when changes are made. Upon approval of new guidelines, SAC will be funding under the newly approved guidelines of the following meeting. And then talking about how we will always like send notes when we fund, and that we're available for questions and like to meet with any groups, and that just to make sure that we're, you know, being transparent and held accountable for all the decisions that we're making. Sorry, I was a little late.
No, you're good, sis. You can't really control the fire alarms in our building either.
Yep.
So the floor is open. You guys can motion for Q&A if you're curious about anything, moderate caucus, or motion straight to passing the guidelines.
Motion to passing the guidelines.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
So is the food cap of 1K, is that changed from prior years, or is that what it's always been?
Addie, you're muted.
Point of order. Sorry. No, previously it was 1,500, and so we tried to even out like food and independent contractors. And I mean, sorry, not independent contractors, reusable items, and just kind of make sure that we're doing a lot of things evenly. Oh, there's a motion on the floor.
What was the motion?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, point of order. Someone made a motion. So asking questions while there's a motion on the floor can't happen. So y'all need to address that before the question asking happens.
Sorry, I withdraw my motion.
Okay. Does anyone, yeah, it wasn't seconded, so it wasn't like recognized yet. But if anyone wants to make another motion, we can motion. If anyone has any more questions, we can motion for a Q&A now.
I'll motion for a 5-minute Q&A with 45-second speaking times.
Second.
All right. So it's been seconded. So all in favor of 5-minute Q&A with 45-second speaking times, please go to the reactions tab and hit the raise hand feature. If you are abstaining or voting no, then just privately message me. Yeah. All right, so everyone needs to vote, or you can just message me if you're not voting. All right, looks like we have hit the halfway mark. We're in a 5-minute Q&A with 4 or 5-second speaking times. The floor is yours, Anthony, because you motioned for it.
Yeah, Harvey, you mentioned that you changed the language to kind of like close some loopholes, and I was just curious about if you could give like an example of one of the things that's fixed under the current or the new guidelines, I guess. And then I yield the rest of my time to Harvey.
Oh boy, do I love loopholes. So this isn't so much of an example, but part of the problem was that like the same role for different individuals had multiple names that connotated slightly different functions, even though they all represented the same individual, and they were used interchangeably, which you can't do throughout a document. Like the lead person in a group to communicate with SAC for financial reasons was referred to by, I think, 4 different terms. So I consolidated that down to 2 because they were really supposed to be 2 different roles. So that clarifies things both for the group and for us. And it makes it a lot easier for communication to occur. Beyond that, there were also sections of the budget of the guidelines that were repeated. So it was something along the lines of like the schedule for when you can apply for funding. I think there were two similar but worded vaguely and slightly differently timelines for when you could do that in the guidelines. There were a few sections where caps were implied but not explicit. There were sections where, God, let me think of a few. There were sections where it wasn't clear when something was merchandise and when it was a costume and when it wasn't. So I tightened up all of those definitions. But overall, the purpose for this was to make budget requests as easy as possible for all parties involved. So that's what I spent. That's why I rewrote it. And now it should be a much clearer and more efficient document.
If anyone else would like to ask a question, you can just keep your raised hand function up. Otherwise, please lower your hand. China, do you have a question? Cece, Talia, Veda, Megan, Jenny, or Grace?
Motion to vote on the.
We can the moderator or the Q&A has not expired yet, so we would need a motion to end the Q&A first. But Megan, I still see your hand is raised, so do you want to ask a question? So if someone wants the motion to end the Q&A, they can do that.
Motion to end the Q&A and move on to voting procedures.
Seconded.
All right. All in favor of ending the Q&A, please go to the Your Actions tab and hit the raise hand function. If you are abstaining or voting against, then you can privately message me. Also, we cannot do joint motion, so I only recognize the first part. So, all right. We have a majority, so the Q&A has ended. Does anyone else want to motion anything else?
Motion to move on to voting procedures for the thing as a whole.
Could I get a second?
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor of moving into voting procedure, please go to the Your Actions tab and hit the raise hand function. If you're abstaining or voting against, then you can privately message me. So we have majority, so we are now in voting procedure on the passage of the SAC revised bylaws. All in favor of passage of the SAC revised bylaws, please go to the Reactions tab, hit the raise hand function. If you're abstaining or voting against, then please privately message me. All right, looks like we have majority. Congratulations, Abby and the SAC team and finance. Pass. Yay. All right, with that brings the conclusion to our new business. So we're going to move into prospective business now. The first thing we have is advancing legislation. If you have any advancing legislation, you can just raise your hand and yeah, tell us about it. Okay, if not, then we can move into announcements. So if anyone would like to make any announcements, JJ, go ahead.
Sorry, I don't know if it's actually announcement or legislation, but just follow up with the Stephen's comments about the scavenger hunt. So the Kahoot bill we just presented, the second event we are deciding on is the scavenger hunt of like sanitation stations across campus and something like that. So the details are not set yet, but just be looking out for that. And another announcement is I actually forgot, so I'll shoot in the chat if I remember. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Sam, go ahead. I see your hands raised.
So I have two announcements. The first one is that we are trying to do a tabling event in March. I know I sent the message to everyone, but I really want to make that happen. But I don't think I should do it by myself. I know I won't be doing it by myself, but I'm going to be sending out the same when to meet after this meeting. And if you're interested, and I know there's a decent amount of people that are interested because we've discussed this before, please send that out. I'm hoping that we can maybe have something. Today is the 9th. It takes a decent amount of time for events to get approved. I'm hoping by the week of Monday to 22nd, we can get that done. I think that would be a good time to have it. And I think feedback is always great. My second thing is on the leadership weekend. I just wanted to echo that is something you should sign up for. I know that, for some people, like, for myself, my sophomore year, I hear leadership. I heard leadership training and I was like, that doesn't sound like fun. But now that I'm here, I can tell you that leadership training is, incredibly helpful in terms of your work in SGA and in terms of your work, in life. So, if you want to get better at leading a team, which is not always easy, you should go to the leadership training. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. Next we have Carolyn.
Sam, you have me over here cheesing. I appreciate you. Shout out to Sam for promoting leadership weekends. My just really quick update. I know part of the conversation earlier during the meeting was about events and being approved for events. This is a very friendly reminder that all events need to be submitted in Hopkins groups. Anything in person needs to be submitted 10 days ahead of time. Anything virtual gets a little bit of leeway on that 10-day time frame, but want to set y'all up for success. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you, Carolyn. I see JJ has her hand up again.
Yes, I remember what I was about to say. So please drop the thing in the signature drop if you are part of SGA and you want to be involved in the thing we're involved in. So the deadline is like right now. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, I don't think we have any more announcements. So we're gonna go on to public input period. Is there anyone from the public here? I don't think so. Okay. Well, with that, would someone like to motion for the meeting to close?
Motion to end the meeting.
Seconded. All right, all in favor of ending the meeting, please go to the reactions tab, hit the raise hand feature. If you are voting against or abstaining, then please privately message me. We need one more vote. Okay, awesome. Meeting has adjourned, so we can stop recording, Sam.